Hello there, everybody. This is Jemmy from Flintstone Media with the 13th episode, lucky number 13 of Curve the Cube. Curve the Cube is your South Florida-based arts, entertainment, and media podcast, and it hopes to inspire you, perhaps, to curve your own cube. Think outside the box, pursue your passions, really go for it, whether it's art, music, radio, media, whatever it is, like, really go for it. And that's what we hope to do with this podcast. So this episode features Charles Milling of extraordinary musical background. He is based out of, he's based out of Florida now, but he's from the great city of New Orleans, and where he has clearly been influenced by all sorts of wonderful talents. And he really knows the nuances of music, and he knows how to put in and pull out the soul of it, and he's really, really amazing. And right now he's focusing a lot on using those talents to actually recraft old Christian hymns into really cool new band arrangements. And it's a special talent that he has, and it's pretty cool. And he shares those talents with us at every week at St. Joseph's Episcopal. And St. Joseph's Episcopal Church is a very special place. It's actually my church, and Charles is actually my son's, one of my son's godfathers. We're really good friends. But St. Joseph's is a church in Boynton, and the Unplugged service is basically a come as you are type service, and it runs every Sunday at 11:45 at 3300 South Seacrest Boulevard in Boynton. And Live Hymnal, the band that Charles leads, is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. It's a great mix of musicians who have, each of them has their own just incredible repertoire, but together it's like they're just the most amazing. They're incredible. You got to see them. But Charles is he's a music note with legs. That's how I describe him. He really knows music in a way that it's a birthright for him. It's incredible. And so in this episode he talks a lot about music and the craft of it, and the influences that he's seen and everything, and it's a really incredible podcast. And he's one of those people that when you meet him, you leave that room with the biggest smile on your face, because he walks into it with the biggest smile on his. So just sit back, relax, and just really enjoy this podcast, because there's some incredible nuggets in here. And if you're a musician or you're just curious about the art of music, you're going to love this podcast. So, all right, this is Jemmy with Curve the Cube's 13th episode, featuring Charles Milling of Live Hymnal. Enjoy! Curve the Cube will now initiate.
Johnny Clegg?
No, who's Johnny Clegg?
He's a South African guy from like 90s.
Yeah?
And he was raised in the Zulu tribe, but he's, like white British guy.
And this is him?
This is him.
How did that happen? Do you know?
I don't know. I need to get his story. That's all I know about him.
Well, it's a really interesting start to the story, that's for sure.
I know.
Where do you want to sit and stuff? Where do you want us to be?
Let's sit in those big chairs.
Okay.
How you doing?
Good, how are you? Woo! That was an awesome service today.
Hey.
It was really, really good. Absolutely. What are you doing now?
The really glamorous part of the gig. She's filing things away.
Oh, you're putting back the copies of things so that you can pull them later for other services?
Yeah, they go back into the file cab. I gotta show you my file cabinet.
Yeah, you do. Because I imagine it's extremely organized or extremely disorganized. But I can't decide.
It's in alphabetical order.
Oh, that's a start.
Sometimes I don't know if I've labeled it before I knew the name of the song, or if I just labeled it the first line of the song. I'll spend forever looking.
Well, if you label something the first line of the song, You know, sometimes you can't remember how a song starts.
Right.
He's like, that might be a problem.
Ouch. Right. Good point. Seriously. You know, when you go to the, it's the only way to find a tune in the hymnal.
Oh, really? Really? Oh, I guess because they expect people to look up the name because so many people redo it and whatever.
The only way you can look at the name of a tune is by the first line.
Gotcha. Now it makes sense.
Index of tune names, and it's all like the first line. Right. Hold on, where is it? Ah, here we go.
Oh, yeah.
So, Ode to Joy isn't, you won't even find Ode to Joy in here. You have to go to Joyful. Joyful, we adored thee.
That would
you can get
drive me bananas.
It drove me bananas. For a while, I'm like, they don't even have Joyful in here. What kind of hymnal is this?
What is this nonsense?
Come look at this.
Oh my gosh.
So they all go in a little file.
Yeah. You didn't have, how long have you had this? Did you only have this once you moved into this room?
No, I've had this forever.
Have you?
Yeah. Some of these are really old.
Gosh.
Some of these are 10 years old.
These are just music sheets and like lyric sheets?
These are my charts, handwritten, most of them.
What?
And
you just do it by ear?
And lyric charts.
Or you copy, because it would seem silly to copy something by hand. You do it by ear?
How do you mean?
Your charts, you said most of them are done by hand.
Yeah, meaning I don't go on computer and do it. I do that now on a program called Sibelius. Here's an example.
Yeah.
This is Chris Tomlin's tune.
Oh, your boy.
Yeah, so we did his live version, but we cut How Great Thou Art there. And on computer, you can just delete those, right? But anyway.
But like, so you're listening to the song and you're writing down what they're doing.
Right. That's a rare example of me doing what somebody else did. Because most of these are me going to the hymnal, deciding how I like my chord changes to go to the melody.
Yeah.
And so I'll create a chord chart. That's basically a flow chart for the band to follow. They don't even know what the words are, some of them.
Right.
They hear the melody and they follow these chord changes. And that way I can really make it my own. And in rehearsal, we infuse, this doesn't have any sort of groove index, so you don't get like that this song is a boof boof boff, or that it's a 16th note groove or anything like that, or how I want the first verse to be going into the first chorus, and how do I like it to develop over time, which of the choruses is a breakdown. You don't get any of that on here. But so that takes real like live musicianship, because these guys have to come in and remember 6 tunes and how they flow from beginning to end, because this is bare bones.
Yeah.
So today, I don't know if you noticed, but twice they broke down the last verse, but they were too early. They broke down the second to last verse. Dang it!
I did, but I think I only noticed it because I know the music so well. I don't know if anybody else would have noticed it. I don't know. But yeah, that type of stuff is really impressive to me, because I have no concept of how to read music. Like that whole thing blows my mind, that you can sit there and listen to a song and actually write out what all that, like write out the song. You could translate it into writing, and that blows my mind that you can do that.
Well, it is truly, it's a great language.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think one of the hardest things is that not everybody speaks the language. Sometimes the most educated musicians would have no idea what I'm talking about when I'm talking to them.
Yeah.
Because they may not speak live musicianship. Whereas I might not know what they're talking about because they speak reading musicianship, And I can read music, and most of us can. It's just that we spend most of our time learning how to have a conversation with our instruments.
Right.
It's very different from sitting in your room practicing how to do something perfectly like it was intended by the composer, note for note. Very different thing.
Yeah. Oh, who's little? Well, I wanted to know what was music like in your house when you were a kid?
My dad was a first of all, I grew up in New Orleans. So there's already just culturally a lot of great music. But from my mother's side, she was restricted from the music she could listen to. So she pretty much gave us free reign in reaction to that.
Gotcha.
So my brother and I had music going all day and night. And we listened to a lot of different types of music. However, New Orleans music was going on around us all the time. And that's a very different thing that you only hear in New Orleans.
Yeah.
It's very multicultural, cross-genre, all over the place. And that's where I grew up, feeling time sort of on the upbeat, which is backwards. And loving polyrhythmic stuff. And my dad, on top of all this, was a jazz pianist.
Oh, wow.
And so he came home every day from work, pour himself a glass of wine, sit down at the piano, and he'd play his repertoire.
Wow.
And he'd go 30 minutes while mom's cooking. And it's just that sort of environment was great. Our music would turn off, he would turn on. We're helping mom in the kitchen, and we're listening to jazz from my dad's, perspective.
Yeah, and that literally probably just infused music into your life.
Absolutely.
Right there.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Absolutely.
Do you New Orleans, yeah, you're right, is extremely unique. And I used to live there too. Yeah. So as I'm listening to you talk about the music in New Orleans, one thing I realize is it seems like New Orleans is a unique spot in that the players and the musicians who come in there or from there, they like to play with the music a lot more.
Yes.
They like to play with mixing the different genres and figuring out new things and really just mixing stuff up in a way that nobody else really does.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you've seen come out of New Orleans that are just so unique to that place?
Oh my gosh, everything. You don't know most of the people there, but you've heard their music because it's, they were like, back in the 50s and 60s, every pop hit that came out was recorded by rhythm sections in New Orleans. So you do hear it outside of New Orleans, you just don't know it's New Orleans. And it's because it's got that playfulness, what you're talking about.
Yeah.
People messing with things and making it their own all the time, and doing musical shout-outs to things that are references that if you don't listen to music, you wouldn't get it.
Yeah.
But it's a musical shout-out all the time.
Wow.
But mostly like groove-oriented things, whereas in Memphis or New York or Nashville or Los Angeles, in those spots, you're talking about less is more, or just a sound, right? A particular sound. Like Memphis had a particular sound. New York had hot, heat, vibe, fast, intensity. What New Orleans had was like, joy, play. Celebration of life, fun. It's like Caribbean music, but it's American. It's awesome.
It's funny. I actually, I took a day trip to Key West yesterday. And...
A day trip. Was that 12 hours in the car?
I didn't drive.
Okay.
It was a party bus, which is part of the reason why I'm kind of exhausted today. But anyway, I hadn't been down there since I was like 13, and I haven't been back to New Orleans since over a decade now. But what was funny when I was in Key West, I remembered it reminds me a little bit of New Orleans in the architecture and everything. But there were street musicians, and it just was like stepping into New Orleans a little bit, and it was really, really nice. Who I love the Rebirth Brass Band.
Oh my gosh,
love them.
They are my favorite.
I was going to ask you, who are your other favorites that have come out of there?
Out of New Orleans, Zigaboo Modaleste, Art Neville. I love Aaron Neville, but most of what you hear of him is like kind of cheesy, but he really is phenomenal.
Wait, Art Neville is, what's the relation?
He is brother.
Okay.
He's an organist. I mean, all the Neville brothers are awesome. I love them as a band too. They're awesome. I'm not sure whose son is Ivan, but Ivan Neville is amazing. George Porter, just a groundbreaking bassist. I'm blanking.
There's so many good ones.
So many, yeah.
But I read that you had your first band when you were 12.
Yeah.
What was that? What was that called? Do you remember that name?
Yeah. Oh God. Blueberry Jam is what it became.
Oh my God, I love it. That's so cute.
Yeah. And it became Blueberry Jam. We went through a bunch of dorky names. But we were playing live and at parties when I was 12.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Wow.
and we kept going through most of high school. And the older guys graduated and went away. But was also in a national touring band called Project NIM. Three of those guys went off to be the National. They're big now.
Okay, I think I've heard of that name, yeah.
So that was three guys from Cincinnati, my brother and I, and this girl Jen from New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
And that was fun.
What was the first instrument you learned how to play?
Piano. I was terrible. I sucked. Absolutely awful.
Have you gotten better over the years?
No, but I have worked on it some. The thing is that I didn't have any inspiration to play an instrument. I just loved music.
Yeah.
So I kind of my family was like, well, he doesn't have the gift, which is fine. That was like, I was probably 7, and was listening to like reggae and country at that moment.
That's an interesting mix.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And I was just not interested in learning scales and reading. And then when I was like 9, my buddy Chris showed me a video of Jimi Hendrix playing. And I said, that's it. That guy really knows how to say something. And since then, those have been my favorite musicians, the ones who are saying something on their instrument.
Right.
You can tell in that moment that they're not just doing something that their fingers learned how to do. Because that's what most musicians do. They just play with their fingers now. And it's not like life appeared in their spine and had a sound to it, and it came out into their fingertips in the sound.
Right. Like a breath.
Yeah, right? So I love musicians who, like, the minute you see them or hear them, you know that they're playing something that is coming out of them. It's not just their hands.
Is that what you look for when you look for someone to...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I noticed that it comes out of the band members.
Yeah.
I mean, each of them, and especially when you guys are jamming out, like at the end of service, that is, it is like watching conversation. It really is, because you guys go back and forth.
Yeah.
It is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, we're all supporting each other, listening. It's just like listening to a fun conversation.
Yeah. That's awesome.
'Cause someone's always going to have the floor, but everyone else is saying, yeah, right.
Yeah,
sure.
exactly. That's true. That's true.
That's what's going on.
So after New Orleans, you went to NYU and then Berkeley.
That's right.
What did you study and what were you doing at either of those?
Well, you know what? Actually, back up a little bit. Like high school, I was in a jazz high school.
Oh, okay.
And studied really, really hard and was working with some of the now great musicians. But I was the lowest on the totem pole. And so I had to work. And by the time I got to college, I wanted nothing to do with music.
Wow.
So I went to New York to just study. Like I read, it was all humanities. I've never read so much in my life. I mean, shelves of books. And wrote a lot.
Wow.
But didn't play at all.
Yeah.
I mean,
you wrote music? Or you wrote, when you say you wrote a lot?
Papers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was, just in a totally different part of my brain and soul and life. And that really lent itself later to, building up the momentum to be a songwriter and, a leader with music. Because you really have to have both. So New York, I did 2 years, and I went out and, saved up my pennies to see this show by a band that I listened to in high school called the Yellow Jackets.
Okay.
The Yellow Jackets were this, really hip, smooth jazz. I don't really love smooth jazz, but these guys really have something special.
Okay.
And so I'd been listening to them forever, saved up the money, got myself a ticket, and that day went and got myself first in line, and I noticed that they'd added another show to the Yellow Jacket show. And I was pissed because at the Blue Note, which is where I was, that means instead of seeing an hour and a half of the band that you paid for, you're going to see 45 minutes of them. and then 45 minutes of the other one.
Yeah.
They just get you in and out of there really fast.
Yeah.
So I was like, damn. And the opening act was this group called the Joe Zawinul Syndicate.
Okay.
And I'm like the Zawa
Wahoo.
And here I am, like, I haven't played music forever. You have no money in New York, you know. So you're saving up money for a Blue Note ticket's a big deal. I'm pissed.
Of course.
And I go and I sit down and I get right center stage, first seat. And the Zawinul Syndicate comes on. Mm-hmm. And, Jimmy, let me tell you, I remember nothing of the Yellow Jackets.
No kidding.
I was in tears in the first tune.
No kidding.
And that show changed my life. They had everything that I grew up wanting in a band.
Wow.
Their drummer was from West Africa, didn't speak a word of English, about 5 feet tall, and he would be so aggressive that when he did a tom roll, he'd fall off his chair.
No kidding.
Yeah, and get right back onto the kit. The groove wouldn't go anywhere,
Wow.
The bass player was from the Congo, and this guy...
Oh, gosh.
This guy played bass backwards, the way that I heard bass growing up, It's like sort of the anti-pop, but it has so much joy and fun in it that it is poppy and accessible.
When you say backwards, can you explain that a little bit?
Sure. The role of, everyone has a role, right, in the band. Usually, like, typical drummer, right, the role is to play to the downbeat, right, and not go anywhere with it. Okay. So a good example is like, shumt, tapt, dumt, tapt, dumt, tapt, dum, dum, gap, shum, and don't move from there, right?
Is that very superstitious? That sounded like very superstitious in my head.
Well, yeah, there's a lot going on in superstitious. Okay, so that's typical drummer, right? Don't move from there. But a New Orleans drummer, same tempo, you give him that groove and you say, here, play this groove, right? And so what you've told him to play is doomt, tapt, doomt, tapt, doomt, tapt, doomt, doomt, tapt, right?
Right.
And a New Orleans drummer goes, right? So they put the accent on the upbeat, the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable, right?
Right.
And then they add all this talking underneath. And then before the end of the bar, the 2-bar phrase, they start messing with it to give it motion so that's fun when it lands back down.
Wow.
So if you break it down, right? It's a totally different language.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah.
But if you played that in Nashville, they'd fire you.
Wow.
If you play that in Memphis, fired. You play that in New York, they'd say, where's the downbeat? You play that in L.A., you'll never have a session.
Wow.
It's just New Orleans.
And that's so funny because I love that.
Me too. It's got life in it.
Right. Unbelievable.
So, saw that show in New York. That night, I couldn't sleep. Went down to check my mail in the morning, and unsolicited, hadn't been a part of music in forever. There's a catalog from Berklee College of Music.
Shut up.
Went upstairs, called my mom, said, I gotta change schools.
Oh my God.
I would probably be a lawyer or a banker or a teller.
My gosh.
Yeah. If it weren't for Joe Zawinul and the Zawinul
Wow, that is crazy.
Syndicate. Changed my life.
That is total kismet, total destiny. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, here you go. I want to blow your mind.
What's that?
Tell us about Fran Mckendree.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. During this time when I wasn't playing, I did play like once a year with this guy, Fran Mckendree. And he was like a rising pop star in the 60s and 70s. Had a really cool band called the Mckendree Spring. And they're awesome. They're in like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Are they really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
They're awesome.
Wow.
And Fran became an Episcopal musician. I mean, he gave up on music after his career for a couple of years, and working with men in the Episcopal Church, it's a long story, but he got back into playing music. And so a friend of mine, that's another long story, got me involved with playing with him. And it's a really fun story for another time.
Okay, we'll definitely sit down again, that's for sure.
Really great, humbling story. But I got playing with Fran, and he loved my spirit and my playing because he is all about communal stuff and having fun and really having that conversation, being present when you're playing.
Yeah.
You know? And so he recognized that in me, and we got along great, and we just ended up becoming, great friends. He became my mentor, became like a soul father to me.
Mm-hmm.
We talk on the phone every day, and this is now almost 20 years later.
Wow.
That relationship has developed. I played on his albums, then I produced his albums, and now we've got live Hymnal, and he's helping me with that, and we've toured a lot, and
yeah.
Anyway, he's just an amazing soul. What he did for me, because he is the most soulful dude in the world, he showed me over and over and over again a different why behind your playing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Jemmy, you walk in, just like I was talking about earlier, you walk into any club,
mm-hmm.
and you immediately hear and see, if you're looking for it, why they're playing, why each band member is playing.
Mm-hmm.
So, you can see and hear right away if it's for money, if it's because they didn't get enough
fame,
right?
Mm-hmm.
If they didn't get enough attention when they were young, if they're really just into their instrument, if they're trying to get a chick,
right.
If if there's some really serious joy in the type of music that they're playing, if they are connecting people, they just want to connect with people, and they want to make connections through music. If they just love being in a band of people, you get all these different whys, and they're not going to be the same in a band. Everyone's going to have a different why.
Right.
Now, fast forward to working with Fran. Fran's why is for that moment when community is completely aware and in awe of God's presence in the house, in their hearts, between them, and it's just palpable.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no one that I know that can create that and pull it out, make it, breathe into the room the way that he can.
Wow.
He's got it.
Oh, I've seen it. When he played with you, you guys played together a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw it firsthand. He's coming here again, right?
He's coming here next week.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's going to be so crazy.
And love it when he gets to come in and we get to back him up.
Of course, because he's amazing.
He's amazing. So ever since then, I've been toying with playing in the church and leading music in the church, but never did I think I would work in the church or have some sort of church band.
Right?
How
did that happen?
Through working with Fran, I met this really cool girl, Steffi Reed, who was a youth minister at some church in Boynton Beach, Florida. And she asked Fran to go on a youth pilgrimage to Iona, Scotland.
Uh-huh.
And he was busy, so he said, why don't you ask Charles? And at that point, all I knew were Fran songs. So I basically
just played
learned how he picked them and played them on the guitar, learned the words, and went to Scotland with a bunch of kids and met Father Marty, who's the rector of St. Joseph's, and just saw how different they were from any church I've ever been to. Very, very open and centered, but real people.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's a family.
Family people.
And we come in bare bones and all.
Yeah, totally.
We are a family.
Yeah, we are a family.
Of warts and all.
Warts and everything. Bring them to church. All right?
Come as you are.
Right. Whereas other churches might encourage that. They don't really know what they're asking for.
Oh,
we all showed up on Sunday?
I know.
Oh, they go running.
No.
Oh, man. So, that's, they asked me to come start a youth band and eventually start a new service within a year.
Wow.
So by that next summer, I was here looking for an apartment.
That's amazing.
And that was 2004.
That's amazing.
And I learned a lot. You know, I'd already been through Berkeley and went to jazz high school, and so really learned how to talk about music and to relay it. But in the first years of doing youth band and this unplugged service with a couple of the kids from the youth band who were like standouts, Tess Bath, Adam Pulda, Nick Saluski.
Oh, yeah.
They're such standouts that I
Amazing
basically
talents.
trained them to be pros.
Yeah.
And they were the first unplugged band. And I learned the most about music by having to teach it to people who have no freaking clue.
Wow.
Because then you have to really learn how to communicate it in ways that just anybody could understand. And
teaching them to understand the language.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So that's where I really, like, you know, my Berkeley chops went out the window. And everything I learned growing up went out the window.
Did you have to
and it was
disassemble yourself a little bit?
Yeah, big time.
Wow.
Yeah. And it all comes back, though, because you don't lose New Orleans. You don't lose that spirit. And you don't lose your natural inclination to communicate in a certain way.
Right.
So it all comes
Right.
back to you when you're ready for it.
Right.
But it wasn't until, you know, you jump ahead 8-9 years and I'm with Live Hymnal, and I'm with guys who really speak the language, and I can finally relax.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I barely have to do anything
Wow.
in rehearsal.
Wow.
I'll correct a few things or give them some awareness pieces, but I'm able to, like, summon my musicianship again, which is great. You know, it's a really, really good feeling.
That's awesome. Well, tell us about Live Hymnal. What are the band members like? Because it's a impressive list of band members. And
Yeah.
flesh that out for us. 'Cause
Oh
Live
my
Hymnal's
gosh.
well, first of all, what's the concept behind Live? It's a very unique concept.
Okay, concept behind Live Hymnal. Thanks for asking. It's Live Hymnal is an answer to Christian band music for denominations, Christian denominations that don't jive with Christian pop.
Okay.
Now, you know, I have
The
nothing.
Jesus is my. I first learned that from you a long time ago. You're like, Jesus is my girlfriend. I'm like, what's that? Jesus is my girlfriend? What's that term? You had me floored. I was like, what? That kind of music.
Yeah. Well, you know, I've grown to like it too. You know, over time, I used to hate it.
You with a passion.
With a passion, because I had to listen to it all the time.
Right.
But you know, the band music that's available for bands to play in church is primarily music from a very different ethos than the Episcopal or Lutheran church. You know?
Right.
You can play those songs in our church, but the meaning behind them and the feeling behind them don't translate. So it's just a little bit weird because they come from a different image of God.
Right.
And our image of God is, you know, that Jesus came to teach us how to love, how to have compassion, and to respect ourselves.
Welcome all people.
Welcome all people. Yep. And to not just say it.
Right.
Right?
Live it.
You live it. So we are people of action, and nobody that I've ever met in the Episcopal Church believes the same thing. So you'll never find an Episcopalian telling you you're going to go to hell or something stupid like that.
Right.
You know? Because we're all believing something a little different.
Right. And we all tend to recognize that we don't really know.
Yeah. There's a serious humility.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
humbleness. We have to be, we're open-minded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got it.
I love that
Yeah.
about this place.
Yeah.
That's really one of the big reasons I came here.
Yeah. Same here.
Exactly.
So Live Hymnal
Yes.
is an answer to that kind of music because our music comes from old, beautiful hymns that are very poetic and gorgeous, but that have zero band arrangement. So Live Hymnal, that's me taking my roots and all of these grooves and beautiful sounds that I've grown up with and creating arrangements for bands to play these hymns and lead people in singing.
It's really an awesome thing you're doing.
Thank you.
Because to hear, you hear the words and you're like, it might take a minute to realize, oh wait, I know that song already.
Yeah.
Oh, so it brings I think because it allows it to span so many generations and everyone can tap into it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And that's really awesome.
Yeah, we try to keep it cross-cultural, cross-genre, and accessible to many ages.
So how did you find these musicians to work with?
Well, when I came to South Florida, I was music sick. I was soul sick for music. New Orleans, you have it everywhere.
Feeds it constantly.
Constant, yeah.
So good.
You got it. I mean, you know what happens on Tuesday nights in New Orleans.
Oh, forget it.
Yeah.
But
Street.
But the thing is, it's 24/7. I mean, you're walking down the street and you're hearing music.
Right.
That's not like that anywhere else.
No. And so I was soul sick for music when I came to South Florida, and I knew that I also had to find a band and that I'd eventually have a band here. So I literally went out and listened to music every single night.
Like live music? Or
live music. And I went in with that why in mind.
Right.
And, watched and listened for people who really, really have it. They have that communication piece. They have a heart for other people. They wanted to connect with the crowd. They, want to make sure that everyone gets heard and that there's communication going. So that there's that beautiful why behind them. And so I found it in first. Went every single Monday night to reggae night. Didn't miss it ever. And that's in Delray. Boston's Delray Beach.
So good.
There was this percussionist, Lance Seiler, and I didn't know who he was, but, I mean, there was something so intentional about the way he played every little thing. When he hit that frickin' block, he meant it.
Right.
If he goes, ta-ta-ta-ta-dote-dote, it's like, oh, my God, it felt so right.
Right.
And he was so intentional. You could see him driving his whole body into it. Like it was, he really wanted to say it.
Yeah.
It's almost as if he's saying, but I really mean this,
Well, it's like you were saying before, it comes through his fingertips and just pounds out. Yeah, It's amazing.
You got it.
It's amazing.
So, going there every single Monday, I eventually got him to church and, met him, got him to church, got him to play with the young ones, Tess, Adam, and Nick. And through him, he knows, he's been playing there for 30 years, so he knows all the guys the other people who I'm totally obsessed with, and he eventually introduced me. Like Richie Barr, I would go see every Thursday night at Old Key Limehouse, and when that guy was playing bass, it was like everyone in the room was connected.
Right.
Oh,
well, I mean, to see him is he's rocking back and forth and bopping out and smiling bigger than anybody else in the room. It's like, my gosh, he loves what he loves this moment right now, and he doesn't care about anything else, and he's happy.
You got it.
And it makes you, it fills you up and makes you so happy. And it's awesome. It's infectious.
Yes, it's infectious. You got it. Yeah, totally. When he's playing with us, everything is okay. Everything could fall apart. All I have to do is look back at Richie.
Right. Right.
It's
all good.
So when he started playing with us, he loved us. And he just, we became instant soul brothers. And we've been working for 6 years, almost 7 years.
Wow.
Yeah. We brought Bob in. Bob was initially sort of, how much am I going to make? And his why wasn't really in tune with my why. Wasn't sure, but it's like every time he started playing, that why was there. And it just took a little while. It took a little while for him to get into the groove of, this is a family, and church is a family, and what we're doing is leading people in singing. And once he got that piece, it was like, we're never turning back, Beautiful. We've had 27 drummers.
Wow.
28 drummers. And not that anyone ever got fired or anything stupid like that. You just rotate people in and out.
availability and whatnot. Cause
Yeah,
everyone.
right.
I mean, these are all pros,
Right.
And so they all have their pro schedules,
Right,
too.
exactly. They're on the road,
yeah.
you know. And the trickiest thing, Jimmy, is the drummer sets the volume for the band in a church. And in a church, the stupidest thing you could ever do is bring a drum set into a church. It's so loud. You know, a snare drum hit,
Yeah.
and you know, within 50 feet of it is 120 decibels.
Wow.
Now, you go up to like 140, and it will deafen you.
Well, you've blown out your ears, so
Yeah.
let's not do that anymore.
Yeah, 120 decibels. That's just the snare drum. The whole drum kit in a live church with all kinds of weird surfaces. It's total cacophony.
A lot of hard stone type of,
Right. Really bad idea. And guess what? It's what we're going to do.
And actually, now that you're talking about it, I do remember that some of those conversations a long time ago, and I'm trying to figure out, I think at one point you guys had that plexiglass.
Yeah, we tried plexiglass. Yeah. We tried, you know, just getting the drummers to play in a different style. You know, it's a mess. We've tried all kinds of things. Miking techniques, not miking at all, you know. You know, we've had trouble with it with every single drummer except for Nat Stokes. When we finally got Nat Stokes on board, he's the first drummer we've had that understands what happens to the room when he hits the drum. So, and he adjusts to it. You could literally throw any drum set in any room in front of that kid, and he would play it correctly for that space.
Wow.
And it's just an intuitive thing. It's not something you can learn.
Yeah.
So that really changed our dynamic completely because we've needed it all this time. And then we eventually got a roll-in drum kit.
Yeah, that's electric, right? And does that solve the issue or not?
No, I mean, it creates more issues.
Oh, does it really?
But it does solve the volume issue.
Okay.
So, you know, it's not a perfect solution, but it is a good solution for the volume issue. And most importantly, the kick drum and the snare drum can be heard where they need to be heard for the information so that the people in the congregation feel the downbeat and the upbeat and the 2 and the 4, and it's just obvious.
Yeah.
You know, whereas before, the drummer might be going, funka kiko kat, fika funka kiko kat, and all people hear in the congregation is, and now they hear funka kiko kat.
Right.
So we have Bob, we have Richie, we have Lance, we have Nat, but we also have Becca. And now Becca, I've been training since she was, I think, 9. And she's 19 now, so 10 years.
Wow.
And she's a great drummer. She knows how to play bass.
She is awesome.
And she's...
inside and out, she's awesome.
She plays who she is. She's a beautiful person. And her role on percussion is just to really infuse the feel of every single moment with her heart. So if the drummer's going...
Oh, sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
I'm not even sure what happened. Oh, I pressed a button. Sorry. Go ahead. Keep talking.
No worries. So the drummer's going...
that's not what the drummer's doing.
If the drummer's doing... she might be going...
Yeah, right.
On the upbeat with the shaker.
Yeah.
Or like hitting... doing that while doing... doubling the snare drum with the tambourine. You know, so she fills in the groove with this luscious, you know, wideness. It's awesome.
And another youngin that you've worked with is Madison Langley.
Madison Langley. I've been working with her since she was 10. And great kid. Taught her how to play guitar.
She's awesome.
Great soul. And she is definitely and will be forever live hymnal family, even though she's in Nashville now, writing songs. You know, whenever she's in town, she'll be with us. And I think I love her voice more than anybody else's in the world.
It's
There's something
beautiful.
about it. Yeah.
When she does Hallelujah,
Oh my gosh.
stop it. It's
I
like
know.
I can't, nothing else matters
Yeah.
when she's singing Hallelujah.
Yeah, same.
Unbelievable.
Do you know she's writing some songs that are almost on iTunes? I mean, she's just taking some
I'm
time
excited.
getting them up, but they're amazing, incredible songwriter.
2 words for you. Soul Mother. What does it mean? What does it mean?
Soul Mother. I told you about Fran. Fran's wife, Diana, really took me in, and she is a Jungian analyst. Carl Jung, as in dream work.
Right.
He's the opposite of Freud. She basically opened me up to seeing the true depth and layers in our dreams and in our everyday waking moments. There are so many deep layers and metaphors and meanings, and it makes every moment blow your mind. And she truly opened me to that and opened my music to that. If it weren't for her and Fran, I'd be a complete mess. I already told you I'd be banking if it weren't for Fran.
Right. I have a feeling you wouldn't be very good, no offense.
I'd be terrible too, yeah. Diana opened me to self-analysis. So, you know, my songs are basically me processing, you know, moments in my life that were, you know, really special or, you know, that jarred me in some kind of way. I worked, all of those tunes were at one point long conversations with Diana.
Wow.
Or dreams, like Curtains and Candles. It was an exact dream. And you know, I burned it all, which is something I say in that dream. You know, is what I felt from that dream, a real sense of regret. But the meaning behind I burned it all was very different from the feeling. So sometimes you wake up from a dream and you feel remorseful or you feel sad, but the meaning behind the dream is actually very different from that. It's more of something you should be rejoicing about or you feel release from. So that song has multiple layers.
Right.
That song is really about grace. That no matter what you do, no matter where you go, there's nothing you can do that can keep you from the love of God and the watching, ever caring, ever affirming, and looking after you, God.
Right.
You know, nothing you can do.
Well, my favorite song on that album, I think I've told you this before, is "Are You With Me?" I mean, that song, you know, because of course when I first got your album, I listened to it front to back, but that song stopped me in my tracks. And then it did it again, and then it did it again, and then it did it again. And that song, for me, you know, always brings up images of my maternal grandmother, and it links me to her in a very special way. What does that song mean for you?
Oh man. Once again, multiple layers. Interestingly, my grandmother passed, and I wrote the melody of that song and the chord changes of that song before I had words, and played it at my senior recital at Berkeley, and it was called something else entirely, and really just felt eventually it needed words, but that's a hard thing to write words for. Something, you know, when you lose somebody that means that much to you and is that special to you. So you just kind of have to wait and wait and wait, and eventually they come. The "Are You With Me" part, it's funny, like I've never had a question of whether my grandmother was with me or not. I always just felt her there or I didn't, you know? Most of the time, yes. Especially around that time. crisis of faith
Mm-hmm.
is really where that the lyrics of that song came out, because it's really, for me, it's a rhetorical question: Are you with me?
Mm-hmm.
But it took me back to being a child and having that sense of awe and wonder, and just sort of like, oh shit, I think I feel and see that there's something else going on here. There's another presence
Yes.
all the time.
Yes.
And you wake up to that and you're kind of freaked by it.
Yes.
So that's there, but it's also for another layer, for those moments when you're like, have you abandoned me, God?
Oh, yes. And which we all have those
Yeah.
moments of thinking,
Yeah.
are you with me?
Yeah.
It's awesome.
And my next album, if I ever get around to it, will have the answer song to that.
So what is the difference between doing your own personal albums and doing live hymnal albums?
Big difference. Well, starting with a small similarity, is my why behind music. And I really long to connect with the people in the world who need a reminder of God's presence, an affirmation of the huge potential in them and the potential for love and hope and connectedness in their lives. I want my music to do that for them. And when I hear my music, it does it to me. So when I write songs and I hear grooves popping up, that's the feeling that I get. And so, they say a songwriter writes the same song over and over and over again. And that's kind of what I do. It's, I get this re-energized feeling about, the potential for love in life and the potential for joy and success and friendship and connectedness and adventure and excitement and pride and passion and,
I don't know how you go through life being so negative, Chuck. Jeez.
Yeah, really positive person.
Really positive person. It's a rare day that you do not have a smile on your face. That is for sure. It's funny because I often describe you to people as a music note with legs. You're walking, talking music note.
Oh, thank you.
And so when I hear you talking about your band members and the people that you seek out, I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, yeah, Richie, he's a walking music note. And Lance, and exactly. It works with all of you.
Yeah.
So you, on the bio on your website, the first line reads, and I quote, Charles Milling is Live Hymnal's founder, well, the Live Hymnal website, obviously. Charles Milling is Live Hymnal's founder, music director, chief cook, and bottle washer. Describe your sense of humor.
Describe my sense of humor?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. I recognize fully that music is not serious. Musicians take music way too serious. It's like picking flowers, Yeah. Can you get serious about picking flowers, people? You're doing it wrong when you're, oh, frickin' flowers, gotta be just right, You
missed the point.
You picked that wrong, I mean, it's music,
Right.
So, my sense of humor is all over what I do because I recognize, people will never be able to put a financial value on music.
They try.
Yeah, they try.
But, yeah.
So
often wrong.
never looking for some kind of reward here, And it would be funny if, any of us ever got wealthy doing what we're doing. We're not doing it for that.
Right.
It's it's so much work doing what we do.
Yeah.
If you put a dollar amount for what we make to the amount we've worked for that moment, you would laugh. You would
Right.
truly laugh.
Right.
So it's not about that. And just I need to keep my sense of humor every single day.
Yeah.
And to keep my purpose in mind.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I think about, someone will write me, for example, and say, and this has happened,
Mm-hmm.
I have given live hymnal CDs to, hundreds of people, and I listen to it every day in my car, and it brings me so much joy, and it reminds me of God's presence in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when somebody tells you that, you can't help but wake up and want to do that again.
Absolutely.
Over and over and over
Absolutely.
again. For more and more and more people.
Absolutely.
So if I never make $1,
Mm-hmm.
who cares?
Mm-hmm.
That's success.
Yeah. How have you been able to figure out, though, that business side of what you do and navigate and all of that part? Because from how I know you, I don't think that's the most fun part for you.
No.
How have you figured that out? And has that been, have you stumbled along the way with that?
Oh,
And what have been some
absolutely.
pitfalls? And
Yeah,
How
well,
have you
I
figured that
come
out?
from a family perfectionist.
I never noticed that you're one. Ever. Never once.
So I can't take something on and do it half-assed.
Okay.
If I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it right.
Yeah.
And so, live hymnal is a business because it has to be. There's too many copyrights and all kinds of things involved. And
Right.
who owns what and, all that kind of stuff. And if money does come in, who does it go to? How does it flow?
Right.
We've got all these write-offs that we have to make. You have to show, that you spent X amount of money making a CD and on this, that, and the other thing. How much of that is, spent on the actual product, and how much of it goes into another bucket, like legal for the first album. It could have been $8,000, but it was really more like $3,000 for the album, and the rest of it, which came down to pennies, was for different things like the trademark and clearances on website issues, and so like
A lot.
somebody
think
has to
about.
attend to every single detail like that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're losing money. It's all going out the window, and
Right.
there's no accounting for it. And you make $5 on a CD, and the government calls that income.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you have to show every little detail.
Yeah.
And, somebody's got to drive the ship and say, this is what we stand for. And I have the vision.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're having a really important gig somewhere, I have to be the one to remind everybody that this is what I'm seeing. And this is Live Hymnal's vision, that we are here to open people's hearts in singing. So if the guys start to perform more than lead, then I have to be the one to say, hey, wait. Our vision is a little bit different than that.
Right.
Remember, what we're doing here is X, Y, and Z, right? So I've got to be the chief cook, but I'm also the bottle washer. So,
What do you think is the difference between being a band leader and being a boss? Which do you think what makes the difference, and which do you think you are more?
great question. Much more of a band leader. Yeah, band leader's role, I feel, if he or she is doing it right, is to look out for the main purpose of the day and make sure that the music meets that purpose. So, to know every person's role in the band for every song, and to know during rehearsals, is that person's role helping to deliver the purpose? And if not, then that's when, as a director, you stop and you have language that you use to bring that out of that musician. And you have to be able to know people really well, because some people are introverts, and you better wait till the end of rehearsal to talk to them about it in private.
Right.
Some are extroverts, and it's okay if you talked about it in front of them. Or you have to find language. Some work better if you dog their playing,
Really?
Suddenly they play better. Others work better if you encourage something out of them.
Right.
And you just have to know people really, really well and be able to translate the purpose of their role in each song in the moment.
Make them understand which puzzle piece they are and how
Yeah.
they fit.
Yeah.
And all that.
Yeah.
Interesting. What in life makes you the happiest? What brings you the most joy?
Great question. When, like I said, my passion and purpose in life is to bring people's awareness to God in their life and total, unlimited potential for hope, love, joy, and compassion. Unlimited. And when what I'm doing is allowing for people to see that and feel it and know it, I am so happy. That's my biggest joy in life.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. And because I'm thinking of some really spiritual places in your background, Canuga, New Orleans, Scotland, this place. Which is the place that you feel the most spiritually at home?
The north end of Delray Beach when nobody's there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, there's just something about it. Every single Sunday morning, I go out there for the sunrise, and the wind is blowing, and most mornings you can watch the sun come up out of the ocean, and it's just there's this shaking presence of the grandness and smallness of God, and that every single week starts there.
Right.
For me, I start having my conversation, start aligning myself with God's intent with my life and my gifts, and I really feel like we're working together. Let's do something together.
And is that the mindset that carries you then through
The whole
the
week.
service and the whole week
You
and
got it.
everything?
You got
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's a really good. A lot of people need to take those moments to center themselves.
Yeah.
So it's nice that that's part of your regular routine.
Got to be in the morning, If you don't do it in the morning, it's so hard to backtrack to it.
Every excuse comes out of the book.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm kind of starting to wrap up here, but for the people who've never been to New Orleans before, right? What would you say is what's one tip of advice you can give them to really experience New Orleans?
Okay.
Because there's a big difference in
Yeah.
how you can experience New Orleans.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Can I give you a two-part answer?
Of course.
Okay.
Give as many parts as you want.
All right. Part one of experiencing New Orleans is getting tourism out of the way. You got to do it. You got to go in and be a dumb tourist with other dumb tourists. Go do it. Go to Bourbon Street, drink a damn hurricane or grenade, right? And be stupid, do something to be ashamed of, eat way too much, and, not remember half of it. And then, meet a bunch of people there who are not from there.
Yeah.
And realize that you probably didn't experience much of New Orleans. Then,
Or.
no, that's part one.
Oh, so you want people to do that?
Get it out of the way.
Get it out of the way. Okay,
Yeah.
I see where you're going. All right. Gotcha.
And between that trip and your next trip, meet some serious New Orleanians, and plan your next trip to be not in the French Quarter. All right? And you go and you have them take you to their favorite spots, introduce you to their favorite musicians, and you will know a town that knows no strangers. Those people have more joy for life than anywhere else I've ever been in the world. And they can connect with you, in one moment more than you might connect with someone in a week somewhere else. And it's just there's so much connective tissue in that town. You will not go hungry for friendship.
Right.
And that's what I love about that place. Changing a little bit after Katrina.
Mm-hmm.
We lost like 80% of the town lost their home.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe 20% of the people who lost their homes came back.
Mm-hmm.
And the people who really, never came back, they didn't come back because they can't afford to
Right.
rebuild their family
Right.
home. And they had to go to work immediately.
Right.
These are not people who had like a trust fund or
Right.
something like that,
Right.
Right. So they're in Atlanta, they're in Houston, they're in Baton Rouge, they're somewhere else. And
A lot of them are the heart and soul.
a lot of them are heart and soul. Those are the people who, like, you're walking down the street and you're probably 50 yards from each other and they're walking down the other side of the street.
Mm-hmm.
And any other city in the world, you wouldn't even notice each other.
Right.
But they're already trying to lock eyes with you and saying, hey, what's up?
Exactly. Right across traffic. They don't care.
Yeah.
It's true.
They're going to connect with you.
It's true.
And so now you've got this huge dynamic of influx of people who wanted to help out after Katrina and who stayed and told their friends to come move down to New Orleans because it's such a cool and a hip place, and they noticed all the neat things about it.
Right.
And they're great too, but they don't know how to say hi to each other. So I just went home for Christmas and was really saddened by that because that culture has changed a bit.
Mm-hmm.
People don't know how to be nice.
No, you're right.
But
Yeah, New Orleans is a unique place, and hopefully it gets... I was actually just having this conversation with someone yesterday about how, the most highly affected places from Katrina, a lot of them are the places where the people wrote music because they were suffering from whatever they were suffering from, and they were able to give a very colorful translation of what they were going through, and then give a very colorful translation of the hope and the peace that they were also living. And you're right. And so when a lot of that got washed out, a lot of the people got washed out, and that soul got affected. I was literally I was just having this conversation yesterday in Key West because I was talking about the similarities and differences. And so
my friend Blake Haney, who owns a couple of businesses in New Orleans, one of them is a design business, and he came up with a sticker that says, "Be a New Orleanian wherever you are." And that's how I've felt since I moved here. And when he coined that phrase, I'm like, that's it, exactly. That's what I've been doing.
Yeah,
it's like every day. You got to wake up and not count on somebody else to show you how to connect and how to be nice and how to have great interactions throughout the day and leave everyone you meet feeling better. And in New Orleans, growing up, that was easy. Not in South Florida, though. So we got to be the change we want to see in the world.
Right.
That's it for me.
Well, and so, New Orleans has their catchphrases for every place. In New Orleans is laissez le bon temps rouler. And in Key West, it was, I knew this before, but I was reminded of it because I used to have a bumper sticker on my car that you can only get in Key West. And it says one human family.
I love
that. And I ran to like every store looking for one. I couldn't find one. But it reminded me, it's this very similar type of thing. So if you were to close your eyes and imagine yourself in a room, and a jam session with anybody, any number of people, dead, alive, anybody, who would be in that room with you?
Richie Barr.
And
Lance Seiler. Everyone at Live Hymnal would be in that band. Though, if it's a jam session, my brother Dave is there. My buddy Talbot Adams is there. And most importantly, my jazz high school teacher, Clyde Kerr Jr. would be there.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that too. That'd be incredible.
Yeah. How about you?
Oh goodness. Janis Joplin. Tracy I keep trying to say the wrong Tracy. I almost said Tracy Morgan. They almost said Tracy
Chapman?
Pullman. Thank you.
What is her
Tracy
name?
Chapman.
Chapman.
Oh my gosh. Why not Tracy Pullman? That would not work. Would be two that I would definitely want. Oh gosh, I'm not even sure. And it's funny because this would be a different jam session, and actually would just be watching him and me salivating in the corner, but it would be randomly. It's really random. It would be John Williams, who was a composer
Oh my God.
of epic proportions,
Epic.
who I would just do anything just to watch him.
Oh my God.
He's
Me
incredible.
too.
So,
He is.
that would be probably absolutely number one, just to be in his
Yeah.
presence. I wouldn't have to do anything.
Oh my God.
Just put me in a room with
Put me in
him,
a room
and
with
I
him
am the
too.
happiest person. I can just bucket list done.
Nice call out. Big time.
Thank
Yeah.
you. So, anything else you want to promote or plug? Where can we find your music, and where can we find you? And because I know the answers, but let them know.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. Be sure that you check us out online, iTunes, Amazon, our website, livehymnal.com. And it's got our calendar coming up for church performances and things. We hope to revamp that and get some, of our outside shows on there too.
Awesome.
Thanks.
That's great. Do you mind signing off the podcast? And all you have to do is say, "Hi, I'm Charles Milling, and this has been Curve the Cube."
Curve the Cube.
You got it.
All right. Hi, I'm Charles Milling, and this has been Curve the Cube.
Yay!
All right.
High five.
Woo!
Woo! Great job.
Thanks,
Thank
lady.
you. That was
Yay.
awesome.
You have successfully curved the cube.